The fuse box sparked when I touched the wrong wire, sending a shower of orange light across my basement workshop. 23 years as an electrical contractor, and I still made rookie mistakes when my mind wandered. Tonight, though, my attention wasn't on the rewiring project that had kept me busy until nearly midnight. Sign or get out. Tonight. My wife Jennifer's voice carried down through the heating vents with crystal clarity. She was talking to our 16-year-old daughter Emma in the kitchen above, and neither knew I could hear every word. "Mom, are you serious?" Emma's voice held that particular teenage whine she'd perfected over the past year. "Completely serious. I'm done pretending this marriage works. Your father needs to sign the separation papers I left on the counter, or he can find somewhere else to sleep." I set down my wire strippers and listened harder. In the house I'd paid for in cash 15 years ago, using every penny I'd saved from building my electrical business from nothing. I almost laughed. Almost. "What about Dad's feelings?" Emma asked, though her tone suggested she didn't particularly care about the answer. "Your father stopped considering my feelings years ago. Besides, at least my new partner isn't a complete failure like him." New partner. The words hit me like touching that live wire upstairs. I'd suspected something was wrong for months. Jennifer had been working late more often, taking mysterious phone calls in the other room, and treating me like an unwelcome guest in my own home. But hearing it confirmed, especially in front of our daughter, felt like a punch to the gut. "Is it really Brent from your office?" Emma asked. Brent Morrison. Of course it was Brent Morrison, the slick real estate developer who'd partnered with Jennifer's law firm on several major projects over the past year. The guy who drove a silver Mercedes and wore suits that cost more than I made in a week. The same Brent Morrison who'd tried to undercut my business 3 times in the past 6 months, stealing clients with promises he couldn't keep. "That's none of your concern," Jennifer replied, but I could hear the defensiveness in her voice. "What matters is that this situation gets resolved tonight. I won't live this lie anymore." I climbed the basement stairs slowly, my work boots heavy on each step. The kitchen was bright and clean, exactly as Jennifer liked it. She stood near the granite countertop we'd installed last spring, still wearing her expensive business suit. Even at midnight, she looked perfectly put together. Emma sat at the breakfast bar, scrolling through her phone with the practiced indifference of a teenager. "Ladies," I said, stepping into the kitchen. "Interesting conversation." Jennifer's face flushed slightly, but she didn't back down. "How long were you listening?" "Long enough." I walked to the counter and picked up the legal documents she'd mentioned. Separation agreement, temporary custody arrangement, financial disclosure forms. She'd been planning this for weeks, maybe months. Brent Morrison, really. The guy who can't wire a light switch without burning down the building. "Don't be crude, Dave. This isn't about him." "Isn't it?" I flipped through the papers, noting how thoroughly she documented every aspect of our marriage's dissolution. Because, from where I'm standing, it seems like this is entirely about him. Emma looked up from her phone. "Dad, just sign the papers. Everyone knows you two hate each other anyway." "Everyone knows?" I turned to my daughter, studying her face. "What exactly does everyone know?" "That Mom's been seeing Brent for months, that you're too stupid to figure it out, that she's way too good for you anyway." Emma's words came out with casual cruelty that took my breath away. Honestly, I don't know why she waited this long. Jennifer didn't correct our daughter, didn't tell her to show respect or watch her tone. She just stood there, waiting for my response. I set the papers back on the counter and looked at my wife of 18 years. Really looked at her. When had she become this stranger? When had the woman I'd worked 60-hour weeks to support turned into someone who discussed destroying our family like a business transaction? "You want me to sign these tonight?" I asked. "Yes." "And if I don't?" "Then you leave, tonight. I've already changed the locks on the front door." I reached into my pocket and pulled out my key ring. House keys, truck keys, office keys, keys to every property I owned or managed. I slid the house key off the ring and placed it on the counter next to the legal papers. You know what, Jennifer? You're absolutely right. This marriage is over. I signed every page she'd marked with yellow sticky notes. My signature looked strange and shaky, but it was legally binding. When I finished, I looked up to find both Jennifer and Emma staring at me with surprise. "That's it?" Jennifer asked. "No fighting? No begging? Would it change anything?" "No." "Then why waste the time?" I picked up my keys and headed toward the garage. "I'll send someone for my things tomorrow." "Dave, wait." Jennifer's voice stopped me at the door. "Where will you go?" "That's not your concern anymore." I turned back to face her one last time. "But don't worry. I'm sure you and Brent will figure out how to explain this to the neighbors." I left through the garage, climbing into my work truck as the automatic door closed behind me. The dashboard clock read 12:47 a.m. In less than 20 minutes, my marriage had officially ended, and I'd become homeless. I drove to the Riverside Motel on the edge of town, a place I'd rewired 5 years earlier when the previous owner couldn't afford a real contractor. The night clerk, a thin woman with tired eyes, recognized me immediately. "Dave, what brings you here at this hour?" "I need a room, Paula. Probably for a while." She didn't ask questions, just handed me a key to room 237. "Weekly rate's better if you're staying long-term?" "Thanks. I'll let you know tomorrow." The room smelled like industrial carpet cleaner and disappointment. A double bed, a small table, a television older than my daughter. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out my phone, scrolling through my contacts. Who do you call when your life implodes at 1 a.m? Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I settled on my best friend Mick, who owned Murphy's boxing gym downtown. Mick had been through 2 messy divorces and understood the particular brand of humiliation that came with marital failure. "This better be important," Mick answered on the 4th ring. "Jennifer threw me out. I signed the papers." "Jesus, Dave, you okay?" "No, but I will be. Come by the gym tomorrow after work. We'll talk." "Thanks, Mick. And Dave, don't do anything stupid tonight." I hung up and stared at the ceiling. Don't do anything stupid. Good advice, except I was already forming a plan that was either brilliant or completely insane. Maybe both. Jennifer wanted a clean separation. She wanted me to disappear quietly while she played house with Brent Morrison. She wanted to rewrite the story of our marriage, making me the villain who couldn't appreciate what he had. Fine. I'd give her exactly what she wanted. I'd be the villain. But first, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. I pulled out my laptop and started researching. Jennifer's law firm, Brent's development company, their recent business dealings, their social media presence. By 3 a.m, I had a much clearer picture of my wife's new life. And by dawn, I had the beginnings of a plan that would make them both regret underestimating Dave Morrison, the stupid electrician who was apparently too dense to see what was happening in his own home. They had no idea what they'd just unleashed. I woke up in that motel room at 6 a.m. with my neck twisted like a pretzel and the taste of betrayal still bitter in my mouth. The morning light filtering through the thin curtains made everything look even more depressing than it had at midnight. But I felt strangely energized, like I'd been sleepwalking through my marriage and finally woken up. My phone showed 17 missed calls, 12 from Jennifer, 3 from Emma, 2 from my mother. I ignored them all and headed to Murphy's diner for breakfast and coffee, strong enough to wake the sleeping. The diner was full of the usual morning crowd, construction workers, nurses getting off night shifts, and retirees who treated breakfast out like a social event. I grabbed a corner booth and ordered eggs, bacon, and information. "Dave Morrison, right?" The waitress, a woman named Carol, who looked like she'd seen everything twice, poured my coffee without being asked. Heard about you and Jennifer. Sorry, honey. News travels fast in this town. Faster when it involves the lawyer who foreclosed on half the neighborhood last year. Carol leaned closer, lowering her voice. Between you and me, most folks around here think you're better off without her. Most folks? Well, except for the country club crowd. They love Jennifer, think she's some kind of success story. Carol's expression suggested she disagreed with that assessment. Of course, they probably don't know about her and that developer fellow. I looked up sharply. What do you know about that? Honey, I've been serving coffee in this town for 30 years. I see everything. She glanced around, then sat down across from me. Those two have been meeting here every Tuesday morning for months. Always the same booth in the back, always whispering like teenagers. Last week I saw him slip her something that definitely wasn't business papers. What kind of something? Hotel key card, Riverside Inn, the fancy place out by the interstate. The Riverside Inn, where rooms cost $300 a night and they served champagne with breakfast. A far cry from the Riverside Motel where I'd spent the night. Carol, you're an angel. Just a woman who pays attention. Your eggs are getting cold. I ate quickly, my mind racing. If Jennifer and Brent had been meeting regularly for months, there would be a pattern. Patterns meant evidence, and evidence meant leverage. I drove to my office, a converted warehouse where Morrison Electric had operated for 15 years. My crew was already there, Tommy, my lead electrician, and his younger brother Pete, who handled the smaller residential jobs. Good men, loyal men, who'd stuck with me through lean times and busy seasons. Boss, you look terrible, Tommy said as I walked in. Everything okay at home? Jennifer and I separated last night. I'll be staying at the Riverside Motel for a while. Tommy and Pete exchanged glances. Sorry, boss, Pete said. That's rough. It's been coming for a while. Listen, I need you guys to handle the Johnson rewiring job today. I have some personal business to take care of. Sure thing. You need anything, just call. I spent the morning in my office, making phone calls and gathering information. Jennifer's credit card statements, which I still had access to. Hotel receipts, restaurant charges, gas station purchases that made no sense unless she was driving to places she'd never mentioned to me. The picture that emerged was damning. Regular charges at the Riverside Inn, always on Tuesday afternoons. Expensive dinners at restaurants across town, even a charge at Victoria's Secret from last month. Lingerie I'd certainly never seen. But the most interesting discovery came from our joint checking account. 3 withdrawals of $500 each over the past 2 months, all from an ATM near Brent's office. Cash withdrawals Jennifer had never mentioned for purposes she'd never explained. I printed everything and organized it in a folder. Then I drove to the Riverside Inn. The desk clerk was a young man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I approached him with my most professional smile and my contractor's license visible in my wallet. Good morning. I'm Dave Morrison from Morrison Electric. We're bidding on some electrical work for the hotel, and I need to inspect a few rooms. My wife Jennifer Morrison made the arrangements. She's the lawyer handling your recent property acquisition? The clerk's face lit up with recognition. Oh yes, Mrs. Morrison. She and Mr. Morrison come in regularly for business meetings. Room 247, right? My heart stopped. Mr. Morrison? The developer gentleman. I assumed he was your brother or something, same last name and all. Brent Morrison. I'd known his last name was Morrison, but hearing it in this context made the betrayal feel even more personal. They'd been using our shared name as cover for their affair. Right, of course. Could I take a quick look at the room, just to assess the electrical needs? I'm not supposed to let anyone in without proper authorization. I pulled out a $50 bill. Just 5 minutes. I won't touch anything. The money disappeared, and suddenly the clerk was very accommodating. Room 247 was a suite with a king bed sitting area and a view of the artificial lake behind the hotel. Expensive champagne in an ice bucket, rose petals on the bed, a gift basket with chocolate and massage oils, and on the nightstand, Jennifer's earrings. The diamond studs I'd given her for our 10th anniversary. I took pictures of everything with my phone, then left quickly before I did something I'd regret. Back in my truck, I sat in the hotel parking lot and called Mick. "How bad is it?" he asked without preamble. "Worse than I thought. They've been meeting at the Riverside Inn every Tuesday for months. The desk clerk thinks Brent is my brother because of the name thing. Morrison's a common name, Dave. Not common enough. They're using it as cover, Mick, making people think it's some kind of family business meeting. What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet, but whatever it is, it's going to be thorough." That afternoon, I drove past Jennifer's law office and spotted her car in the parking lot. More importantly, I spotted Brent's silver Mercedes parked right next to it, at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, when Jennifer was supposed to be in court according to the calendar on our refrigerator. I parked across the street and waited. An hour later, they emerged together, laughing about something. Jennifer looked happier than I'd seen her in years. They got into Brent's car and drove toward downtown. I followed them at a distance, feeling like a private detective in a bad movie. They stopped at Romano's, the most expensive Italian restaurant in town, the same restaurant where Jennifer and I had eaten exactly once, for our 15th anniversary, and she'd complained about the prices the entire time. Through the restaurant's front window, I watched them hold hands across the table, watched Brent feed Jennifer a bite of his dessert, watched my wife of 18 years act like a lovesick teenager with another man. My phone buzzed with a text message from Jennifer. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." I almost laughed. Don't wait up. In the motel room I was paying for by the week because she'd thrown me out of my own house. I took pictures of them through the restaurant window, then drove back to my depressing motel room to plan my next move. Jennifer wanted to play games? Fine. I'd been underestimated my entire life, by her family, by her friends, by everyone who saw a blue-collar electrician and assumed I was too simple to understand complex situations. They were about to learn how wrong they'd been. I spent that evening creating a timeline of Jennifer and Brent's relationship, cross-referencing credit card statements with calendar entries and social media posts. The pattern was clear. They'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd assumed I was too stupid or too trusting to pay attention. Tomorrow, I'd start showing them just how much attention I'd been paying. The next morning brought rain and the kind of gray sky that matched my mood perfectly. I'd been living in the Riverside Motel for 3 days, and the place was starting to feel like home in the most depressing way possible. But today was different. Today, I stopped being the victim and started being the problem. I drove to Jennifer's office building and parked in the visitor's lot, right next to Brent's Mercedes. The car was immaculate, as always. Polished silver paint, custom leather interior, personalized license plate that read, Top Dev 1. Everything about it screamed arrogance and money. I pulled out my keys and walked around the car slowly, as if I was admiring it. Then, when I was sure no one was watching, I dragged my house key along the driver's side door, carving a deep scratch from the front wheel well to the rear bumper. It felt better than I'd expected. But I wasn't finished. I knelt down beside the rear tire and used my pocket knife to work a small piece of gravel into the valve stem. Not enough to cause a blowout, I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, but enough to ensure a slow, steady leak that would leave Brent stranded somewhere inconvenient. As I stood up, brushing dirt off my knees, I heard the distinctive click of a camera phone. Mrs. Patterson, the elderly woman who lived next to my old house, was standing near the building entrance with her phone pointed directly at me. "Morning, Mrs. Patterson," I called out cheerfully. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" She lowered her phone and hurried into the building without responding. Within an hour, I was sure, Jennifer would know exactly what I'd done to Brent's car. Good. I wanted her to know. I drove to Murphy's boxing gym to meet Mick for lunch. The gym was a throwback to an earlier era. Heavy bags, speed bags, a boxing ring that had seen better decades, and the smell of sweat and determination. Mick had bought the place 15 years ago, when the previous owner couldn't pay his electrical bill. I'd done the rewiring in exchange for a lifetime membership. "You look like hell," Mick said as I walked in. "Feel worse than I look. But I'm starting to fight back." "What did you do?" I told him about the Mercedes. Mick listened without judgment, then shook his head slowly. "Dave, you're playing with fire here. Jennifer's a lawyer. She knows how to make your life miserable in ways you haven't even thought of yet." "She's already making my life miserable. At least now I'm returning the favor. This isn't going to end well. It's not going to end well for someone, but it might not be me." Mick sighed and led me to his office, a cramped space above the gym floor. "Look, I get it. You're angry. You have every right to be angry, but you need to be smart about this." "I am being smart. I'm documenting everything. I have evidence of their affair, proof that Jennifer's been lying to me for months, and a paper trail showing she's been spending our money on hotel rooms and expensive dinners with another man." "And what are you going to do with all that evidence?" "I haven't decided yet, but when I do, it's going to be spectacular." My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. "We need to talk. Now." I showed the message to Mick, who raised his eyebrows. That was fast. "Mrs. Patterson works quickly." I typed back, "I'm busy. Make an appointment." Jennifer's response came immediately. "Don't be childish, Dave. Meet me at Romano's at 7. Romano's, the same restaurant where I'd watched her play house with Brent yesterday. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. "Fine," I replied, "but you're buying." At 7 o'clock sharp, I walked into Romano's wearing my best jeans and a clean work shirt. Jennifer was already there, sitting at a corner table and looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. She'd chosen the same table where she and Brent had shared dessert 24 hours earlier. "You look nice," I said, sliding into the chair across from her. "Special occasion?" "Cut the act, Dave. We both know why we're here." "Do we?" "Because I thought we were here to discuss your affair with Brent Morrison and how you've been using our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms." Jennifer's face went pale. "How did you find out?" "I'm not as stupid as you think I am." I pulled out my phone and showed her one of the photos I'd taken at the Riverside Inn. "Nice earrings, by the way. I remember buying those for you." She stared at the photo for a long moment, then set her jaw in the stubborn expression I knew so well. "Fine. Yes, Brent and I are involved. Yes, we've been seeing each other for several months, but that doesn't give you the right to vandalize his car." "Vandalize is such a strong word. I prefer to think of it as artistic expression." "This isn't funny, Dave." "You're right, it's not funny. It's pathetic. 18 years of marriage, and you throw it away for some slick developer who probably has 3 other women on the side." "Brent isn't like that." "Isn't he? How well do you really know him, Jennifer? How many other lawyers do you think he's wined and dined at expensive hotels?" For the first time since I'd sat down, Jennifer looked uncertain. "That's not... he wouldn't..." "Wouldn't he? The man's been married twice before. Both wives left him for cheating. Did he mention that during your romantic getaways?" I was bluffing. I hadn't researched Brent's marriage history yet, but Jennifer's expression told me I'd hit close to the mark. "You don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Don't I? Tell me, Jennifer, what's Brent's long-term plan here? Is he going to leave his current girlfriend for you? Or are you just convenient entertainment until something better comes along?" "He doesn't have a girlfriend." "Are you sure about that?" "Because I drove past his condo yesterday evening, and there was a red BMW in his driveway. Same car that's been there every night this week, according to his neighbor." Another bluff, but Jennifer's face crumbled slightly. She was starting to realize that maybe she didn't know Brent as well as she thought. "Even if that were true," she said, "it doesn't change anything between us. Our marriage was over long before Brent came into the picture." "Was it?" Or did you just decide it was over when someone more exciting came along? Jennifer stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I'm not going to sit here and let you psychoanalyze me. Just stay away from Brent's car, and stay away from us. The lawyers will handle everything else. The lawyers, I repeated. Right. Because everything's better when you involve lawyers. She threw a $20 bill on the table and walked out, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a basket of breadsticks I suddenly had no appetite for. But as I watched her leave, I realized something important. Jennifer was rattled. The confident, controlled woman who'd thrown me out of my own house was starting to crack under pressure, and I was just getting started. I pulled out my phone and started researching Brent Morrison's romantic history. If Jennifer wanted to play hardball, I was going to make sure she had all the facts. By the time I left Romano's, I had enough information to ruin both their nights. The question was, what was I going to do with it? The answer came to me as I drove back to my motel room. I was going to give Jennifer exactly what she'd given me, a nasty surprise she'd never see coming. But first, I needed to make a few phone calls. Saturday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth and the kind of blue sky that made everything seem possible. I'd spent Friday night researching Brent Morrison's background, and what I'd discovered was even better than I'd hoped. 3 previous marriages, not 2. A bankruptcy filing from 2018 that he'd somehow managed to keep quiet. And most interesting of all, a current relationship with Rebecca Walsh, a real estate agent who'd been posting photos of herself in Brent's condo on Instagram for the past 6 months. I printed everything and organized it in a folder, then drove to the country club where Jennifer played tennis every Saturday morning. The Riverside Country Club was the kind of place where membership cost more than most people made in a year, and everyone pretended they'd earned their wealth through hard work and moral superiority. I'd always hated the place, but today I was grateful for its predictable social dynamics. Jennifer was on court 3 with her usual partner, Amanda Sinclair, the wife of a prominent surgeon. They were playing against 2 women I didn't recognize, but who looked like they belonged to the same social circle: expensive workout clothes, perfect makeup, and the kind of confidence that came from never having to worry about money. I waited until their match ended, then approached the fence around the court. Jennifer, could I have a word? She looked mortified to see me there, especially dressed in my work clothes while surrounded by her country club friends. Dave, this isn't the time or place. Actually, it's the perfect time and place. I pulled out my folder and removed several printed pages. I thought you might want to see these before you make any permanent decisions about your future. Jennifer's face went white as she recognized the photos of Rebecca Walsh in Brent's condo. Amanda Sinclair leaned closer, her eyes widening as she took in the images. "Who is that?" Amanda asked. "That's Rebecca Walsh," I said helpfully. "Brent Morrison's live-in girlfriend. They've been together for 8 months, according to her social media posts." Jennifer snatched the papers from my hands, but it was too late. Amanda had seen enough, and in a place like the country club, gossip traveled faster than bad news. "Jennifer," Amanda said carefully, "is this the same Brent Morrison you've been seeing?" "It's not what it looks like," Jennifer said, but her voice was shaking. "Really? Because it looks like your boyfriend has been playing house with another woman while he's been playing house with you." I pulled out another sheet of paper. "This is from Rebecca's Instagram account yesterday. Notice the champagne glasses on the table? Same brand you and Brent were drinking at the Riverside Inn." The other women on the court had stopped pretending not to listen. This was better entertainment than anything they'd see on their afternoon soap operas. "Dave, please," Jennifer whispered. "Not here." "Why not here? These are your friends, right? The people you trust with your secrets and your future plans?" I looked around at the small crowd that had gathered. "I'm sure they'd love to hear about how you threw away an 18-year marriage for a man who's been lying to you from day one." Jennifer's tennis partner looked like she'd rather be anywhere else, but she couldn't resist asking the obvious question. "Jennifer, did you know about this other woman?" Of course she didn't know. I answered, before Jennifer could respond. Because Brent Morrison is a professional liar. 3 failed marriages, a bankruptcy he's been hiding, and a pattern of cheating that goes back 20 years. I handed Amanda another sheet of paper. That's his divorce filing from 2019. His ex-wife cited adultery with multiple partners. Sound familiar? Jennifer grabbed my arm, her fingernails digging into my skin. Stop this, please. Stop what? Telling the truth? I thought you valued honesty, Jennifer. Isn't that what you said when you threw me out of my own house? Ladies, Amanda said diplomatically, perhaps we should give Jennifer and Dave some privacy. No need, I said. I'm finished here. Jennifer, when you're ready to have an adult conversation about our situation, you know where to find me. But you might want to have a chat with Rebecca Walsh first. I have a feeling she doesn't know about you either. I walked away, leaving Jennifer standing there with the evidence of her boyfriend's betrayal scattered around her feet like fallen leaves. My phone started ringing before I reached my truck. Jennifer, of course. I let it go to voicemail. The second call came 5 minutes later, then a third. By the time I reached Murphy's gym, Jennifer had called 8 times and sent a dozen text messages, each more desperate than the last. Mick was working the heavy bag when I walked in, his fists moving in a steady rhythm that spoke of years of practice and frustration. You look pleased with yourself, he said without stopping his workout. I just gave Jennifer some information about her boyfriend that she probably should have had months ago. Such as? I told him about the country club Confrontation and Rebecca Walsh. Mick stopped punching and turned to face me, sweat dripping from his forehead. Dave, you're playing a dangerous game here. How is telling the truth dangerous? Because you're not just telling the truth. You're weaponizing it. There's a difference. Jennifer weaponized our entire marriage when she decided to have an affair. I'm just evening the odds. My phone buzzed with another text message. Please call me. We need to talk about this like adults. I showed the message to Mick, who shook his head. She's scared now. Scared people make bad decisions. Good. Maybe she'll make a bad decision that works in my favor for once. But even as I said it, I knew Mick was right. I was playing with fire, and eventually someone was going to get burned. The question was, would it be me or them? I decided to find out. I called Jennifer back. Thank God, she said when she answered. Dave, we need to meet, right now. I'm listening. Not over the phone. Meet me at the house in an hour. Your house, I corrected. You made it very clear that it's not my house anymore. Please, just please. There was something in her voice I hadn't heard in years. Vulnerability, fear, maybe even regret. Fine. 1 hour. But Jennifer? Yes? Bring Brent with you. I think the 3 of us need to have a conversation. I hung up before she could respond, then turned to Mick. Want to come watch me have the most awkward conversation of my life? Wouldn't miss it, Mick said. Someone needs to make sure you don't do anything completely stupid. Too late for that. I passed completely stupid about 3 exits back. But as we headed toward my truck, I realized I wasn't scared anymore. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I was in control of my own life. It was a feeling I planned to hold on to, no matter what happened next. The house looked exactly the same as it had 4 days ago when I'd walked out, but everything felt different. I parked in the driveway behind Jennifer's BMW, noting that Brent's scratched Mercedes was nowhere to be seen. Mick waited in his truck across the street, ready to intervene if things went sideways. Jennifer answered the door before I could knock. She looked terrible. No makeup, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing the old Georgetown Law sweatshirt she usually reserved for sick days. Where's Brent? I asked. He's not coming. Interesting. Trouble in paradise? Jennifer stepped aside to let me in. The living room felt strange and unfamiliar, like visiting a house you used to live in years ago. Someone had rearranged the furniture, and there were fresh flowers on the coffee table, the expensive kind that came from the florist downtown. Sit down, Jennifer said. Please. I remained standing, I'm fine here. What did you want to talk about? You were right about Rebecca. I'm right about a lot of things. You'll have to be more specific. Jennifer's composure cracked slightly. Don't make this harder than it already is, Dave. Yes, Brent has been seeing someone else. Yes, he lied to me about it. Are you happy now? Happy? My wife of 18 years threw me out of my own house for a man who's been cheating on her the entire time. Happy isn't the word I'd use. Then what word would you use? I thought about it for a moment. Vindicated, disappointed, angry as hell, but not happy. Jennifer sat down on the couch, her shoulders sagging with defeat. I confronted him after you left the country club. He admitted everything. Rebecca, the other women, all of it. Other women? Plural? Apparently I wasn't as special as I thought I was. I felt a moment of sympathy for her, then remembered how she'd talked about me in front of our daughter. How she'd called me a failure and a loser. How she'd thrown away 18 years without a second thought. So what happens now? I asked. I don't know. I've made such a mess of everything. Yes, you have. Jennifer looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Dave, I know I hurt you. I know I handled this all wrong. But maybe we can work through this. Maybe we can try counseling or... Stop. What? Just stop. You don't get to do this. Do what? You don't get to throw me away like garbage and then try to pick me back up when your shiny new toy breaks. I sat down across from her, leaning forward. You called me a failure, Jennifer, in front of our daughter. You told her I was a loser who wasn't good enough for you. I was angry. You were honest. Maybe for the first time in months, you were completely honest about how you really feel about me. Jennifer wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her sweatshirt. That's not true. I was hurt and confused and you were embarrassed. Embarrassed by your blue-collar husband who didn't fit in with your fancy lawyer friends. Embarrassed by the man who worked 60-hour weeks to pay for this house and your car and Emma's private school. That's not fair. Isn't it? When was the last time you introduced me to your colleagues without apologizing for what I do for a living? When was the last time you seemed proud to be married to me? Jennifer opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. We both knew the answer. I built a successful business from nothing, I continued. I've been faithful to you for 18 years. I've supported your career, your dreams, your ambitions, and the moment someone more exciting came along, you threw it all away. I made a mistake. No, Jennifer. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the grocery store. A mistake is double booking dinner plans. What you did was make a calculated decision to destroy our family for a man you barely knew. So what are you saying? That it's over? That there's no chance for us? I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the yard I'd spent countless weekends maintaining. The garden Jennifer had wanted but never helped tend. The deck I'd built with my own hands. I'm saying that trust, once broken, can't be unbroken. I'm saying that some words, once spoken, can't be taken back. And I'm saying that I deserve better than being someone's backup plan. Dave, please. Where's Emma? At her friend's house. I didn't want her here for this conversation. Smart, because I have something to say that she doesn't need to hear. I turned back to face Jennifer, who was watching me with growing alarm. I want you to understand something. I'm not the same man who walked out of here 4 days ago. That man was hurt and confused and willing to believe that maybe this was all his fault somehow. But that man is gone. What do you mean? I mean that I've spent the last 4 days learning things about you and Brent that have opened my eyes. I know about the credit card charges. I know about the cash withdrawals. I know about every lie you've told and every secret you've kept. Jennifer's face went pale. Dave, I'm not finished. I also know that you've been telling people around town that I'm some kind of deadbeat who couldn't satisfy his wife. I know that you've been painting yourself as the victim in this situation. That's not... It is true, and it stops now. I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot of her Facebook page. This post from 3 days ago. Sometimes you have to make hard choices for your own happiness. 47 likes and dozens of comments about how brave you are and how you deserve better. I have a right to express my feelings. You have a right to be honest. But you don't have a right to rewrite history to make yourself look better. I scrolled to another post. This one from yesterday. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Are you talking about me, Jennifer? Or are you talking about Brent? She didn't answer. Here's what's going to happen, I said, putting my phone away. You're going to post a correction on social media. You're going to tell the truth about why our marriage ended. And you're going to stop painting me as the villain in your story. And if I don't, then I'll tell the truth myself. And I have documentation to back up everything I say. Jennifer stared at me for a long moment, as if seeing me clearly for the first time in years. You've changed, she said quietly. Yes, I have. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Before she could answer, my phone rang. Mick. Everything okay in there? He asked when I answered. Fine. Just having a civilized conversation about the future. Good, because you've got company coming. Black BMW, driving fast, looks angry. Brent, of course. Thanks for the heads up. I hung up and turned to Jennifer. Your boyfriend's here. This should be interesting. Dave, please don't make a scene. I'm not going to make a scene, but I'm not going to hide either. The front door slammed open, and Brent Morrison stormed into the living room like he owned the place. He was smaller than I'd expected, maybe 5'8", with the kind of soft build that came from too many business lunches and not enough physical work. What the hell do you think you're doing? He demanded, pointing at me. Having a conversation with my wife. What are you doing? Your ex-wife, and I'm here to make sure you stop harassing her. I looked at Jennifer. Ex-wife? Is that what I am now? She didn't meet my eyes. That's right, Brent continued. Jennifer's moved on, and it's time you did the same. Moved on to you? The guy who's been cheating on her with at least 2 other women? Brent's face flushed red. That's none of your business. Actually, it became my business when you started having an affair with my wife in hotel rooms paid for with my credit card. That's over now. Jennifer and I are going to work things out. I turned to Jennifer. Is that true? Are you going to work things out with the man who's been lying to you for months? We're going to try. Even though he's living with another woman? Rebecca and I broke up, Brent said quickly. That's over. When? This morning? Yesterday? Or are you planning to break up with her sometime next week? Brent took a step toward me, his hands clenched into fists. I don't have to explain anything to you. No, you don't. But you might want to explain it to Jennifer, and to Rebecca, and to whatever other women you've been stringing along. You don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot of Rebecca Walsh's Instagram account. This was posted 2 hours ago. She's at your condo, cooking dinner and talking about your romantic weekend plans. Doesn't sound like someone who thinks she's been broken up with. Brent's face went from red to white in the span of a heartbeat. You son of a... He swung at me, a clumsy right hook that I saw coming from a mile away. I stepped aside easily, and his momentum carried him into the coffee table, scattering Jennifer's expensive flowers across the hardwood floor. Brent! Jennifer screamed. I'm fine, he said, struggling to his feet. But this isn't over. Yes, it is. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out of my house. It's not your house anymore. Actually, it is. Jennifer signed a separation agreement, not a divorce decree, and according to the deed, which I happen to have a copy of, this house belongs to me until the divorce is finalized. I pulled out the folded papers I'd been carrying in my jacket pocket. These are eviction notices. Jennifer has 30 days to find somewhere else to live. You have 30 seconds to get off my property. Brent looked at Jennifer, who was staring at the papers in shock. Is this legal? She asked. Completely legal. I checked with my lawyer this morning. You don't have a lawyer, Jennifer said. I do now. Hired him yesterday. Turns out there are quite a few attorneys in this town who don't like being undercut by hotshot developers and their lawyer girlfriends. Brent was edging toward the door, but he couldn't resist one last parting shot. This isn't over, Morrison. You're right. It's not over. It's just beginning. I closed the door behind him and turned to face Jennifer, who was still staring at the eviction notice. Dave, you can't be serious about this. Very serious. You wanted out of this marriage? Fine. But you don't get to keep the house I paid for while you figure out your next move. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. You made your choice. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Jennifer? What? Next time you decide to have an affair, maybe do a background check first. It might save you some embarrassment. I left her standing there in the ruins of her perfect plan, surrounded by scattered flowers and legal papers that would change her life forever. Outside, Mick was waiting by his truck, grinning like he'd just watched the best movie of the year. How'd it go? He asked. Better than expected. Much better. And now? Now we go get a beer and plan phase 2. There's a phase 2? I looked back at the house where I'd spent 15 years of my life, then at Brent's BMW speeding away down the street. Oh, there's definitely a phase 2. And I was already looking forward to it.